to proceed any further, that there should be a motion to do that. And if there's no other motion to do that, then I don't know why we want to continue to vote. I know to discuss. I mean, if no one's inclined to ask for him to step down as chair, then further discussion is I don't know. You have to be careful. Lack of a better term, pointless, because if no one's willing to make a motion to do that, then we're comfortable with him remaining as chair despite some missteps.
Well, I will refer to the charter, section 8, which does say that any citizen wishing to appear before a regularly scheduled council meeting may request to be placed on the agenda. I think by not allowing discussion that we are just looking at that. And sometimes the point of discussion is, of course, to convince. And I am always open to take a motion. Would anyone else like to discuss the second complaint file? Councilor Lundgren?
I've only known Chairman Syrak for a short time, mainly the time he spent on this council. He has done everything in his power to bring this town forward. He has done everything in his power to bring all the boards and committees together to move this town forward. He has shown great leadership in that position. I would suggest we don't even consider removing Mr. Syrak from the chairman's position.
Anyone else? Councilor LeBlanc?
I have to agree with Councilor Limbo completely on that. I mean, he's worked hard for all the boards to get together and work hard together. And we've made great strides in our boards. So one little, bad moment, we're going to throw him out. I think that's very inappropriate. I think we should stand behind him. And if anything for a motion to be made, I'd like to make a motion that we vote to continue our support with Chairman Syrak. To show our support to him.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Councilor LeBlanc?
I understand the desire here. I've been here long enough to understand the politics. The question that comes to mind, and you all have to self-reflect on this, is that anytime you embrace dishonesty, you bring in failure. And I hate to be the voice of reason here when we look at this, but all you have to look back is look at the last 2 years. Do you think that all the things that have happened to us is based on a truthful exchange of information? The foundation of accountability and oversight is the free exchange of information. Now, I understand the loyalty. I think that Mr. Syrak has done an exemplary job in regards to the things that he was pushing forward. The problem is, you have to say, is this that trivial? Now, my actions last week in regards to trying to memorialize the email, the thing that triggered me in regards to that, trying to memorialize that email, if you read that email, is the fact that it left our town administrator hanging out there as the source of this information. And I knew of that. When I went on the following Monday to talk to Mr. Shankland, there was no hesitation. There was no calculation. He specifically said to me, the information came from the police chief through Chairman Syrak. I accepted, once again, that it probably wasn't best practice to have that email sent out. But the thing that I was conflicted with was that email was sent and it was supposedly confidential. The minutes reflect that, last meeting reflects that the confidentiality of that, of the information from the chief was to protect the chief. But that information was radioed to the newspaper that Sunday. Now, I'm not sure if you guys think it's a misstep, but when the supposed conversation that took place when Mr. Sirek called Mr. Pearl was once again memorialized in an email sent to all of us with the statement that the information was verified on the 28th, 5 days after that when that information was verified. I guess the thing that what I would say that I'm concerned with was, if I go back to that point in time, on the morning of, I guess Friday the 23rd, is I asked the question. I understood the significance of the information being conveyed in that email and sent to all of us, and I asked the question.
So if I just may,
Yeah.
because we have been touching on the initial complaint that was made during the public input. I guess I for the record, would like to introduce that complaint to the conversation. And I will go ahead and summarize that. That initial complaint, as I remember it, was that there was an email distributed under the name of our town administrator Schenkel that was sent out by Evelyn, that was, I guess, dictated by our council chair, and then from there came the question of where the information in that email came from.
Could I read it?
You may.
The reason,
Cautiously.
yeah, the reason I was
Thank you.
concerned with it, and if you read it, was the subject: urgent message from the town administrator regarding the police chief. Importance high, confidential. The following is a confidential message from the town administrator, Dean E. Schenkel Jr., to all councilors. Although we have not received confirmation from the police commission, the town council has advised that the police chief, Stephen Agrafiotis, has been placed on paid administrative leave pending further investigations and the result of the audit as requested by the police commission. The signature on it is an electronic signature of Dean E. Schenkel. I knew for a fact that Dean Schenkel wasn't the author of this document that morning. I specifically asked, what was the source?
I don't believe that goes to the complaint, though. I believe that's already been discussed, and we can bring that up separately, whether or not it was appropriate to send an email.
I'm not talking about
that
the
way.
appropriateness of it. What I was saying is this was the nexus of the discussion of the lie. I mean, of basically saying that he didn't receive the information until the 28th. Not, and I'm saying it was on the 23rd.
That says to me that we did not have official information. Well, at least that's how I interpret that. I would
Right.
ask how others do. I read that as saying that there's a rumor going around that this has happened.
Correct.
Thank you.
If I may.
So please clarify this back
Right. Yeah.
I think it's important to look at the circumstances of the events of that morning. There were significant, there was no official communication from anybody. The police commission took action. My comments did not make it into the media because it was taken under, the police commission took action under 91A, I believe, and I had nothing to add to that, so that didn't get in there. But I think when you look at the firestorm of activity that was going on that morning, and coming on the heels of the communication mandate from the Best Boards Win, and in light of things that had, many of us ran on a platform of transparency and communication, from the sewer discs to DPW to things that were going on in the town. I think that for me anyway, I look to intent. And I don't think there was an intent with Chair Syrak's comments that day. I think he was trying to do the right thing by citizens. I sincerely believe that. And I think that was, in retrospect, could it have been handled better? There's little to no question about that. However, I do feel like he would have been far better off telling Mr. Pearl, it's none of your business.
I do want to allow the council, because I think it is important that it is discussed, to discuss the email and that particular morning, if they feel it is appropriate at a later time. I would like to get back to the motion, which actually is not even the complaint. The motion, and if you could read it back to me, Evelyn.
Sure. The motion is to show continued support for the chair, and it was made by Councilmember Beck.
So if I could ask if we have discussion related to that motion, and if we do want to continue discussing the complaints in contents to that motion, then I think that is appropriate.
Please clarify the motion in the sense that what we would be voting on, because it doesn't seem to go to this complaint.
A motion is a motion, and it does not necessarily, the motion is the motion. The motion is to continue to show support for our acting chair, and I believe that would mean that we are not going to consider, as requested in this, to remove him.
Madam Chair?
That's my understanding. Councilor Wembo, did you want to speak to your motion?
I seconded Mr. Levesque.
Oh.
But anyway, the motion speaks to the complaint. The complaint, Mr. Pearl is asking us to remove Mr. Syrak as chairman. And the motion was made not to do that. That we're going to support Mr. Syrak in the chairmanship and let him continue with the great work he's doing as chairman. That's what the motion states.
Before we vote on that, is it possible to have Mr. Syrak speak to this complaint?
I'll consider it while we listen to Councilor Orr's comments.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you. I like to assume positive intent. I don't know Chair Syrak personally outside of how I've got to know him here. I think that, to me, it seemed obvious that he felt that he was doing the right thing. In hindsight, it turned out that maybe that wasn't necessarily true, and that maybe he reacted in a way that was not really correct. And to his credit, he did come back, clarify it, put a statement into the record to clarify the situation. I think that one of the other mistakes that was made during this process was what he did correctly tonight, which was recuse himself from the conversation that was about him. The other evening when we ended our discussion so abruptly, I was concerned about that. There was a motion to adjourn, and listening to the tape, I heard 3 ayes. I know I wasn't one of them, but everybody was already leaving. So I think when someone has a personal